Liz Cheney was in the news a lot this past week. First, we learned that George W. Bush was fundraising for her, and Democrats and defense contractors donated a record haul to her campaign. Then at the end of the week, she and Adam Kinzinger were censored by the Republican Party for their role in the January 6th Star Chamber Committee. This all got me thinking, what is Liz Cheney's problem? Why does she hate President Trump and his supporters so much? Is it because he questioned the legitimacy of the 2020 election and accused Joe Biden of cheating? Democrats accused her father and Bush of stealing 2 elections, and there was protest and violent clashes with the police, and we didn't hear a peep out of Liz Cheney. We didn't hear a peep out of her during the BLM violence and riots either. However, she brought her father out of his crypt to grandstand a few weeks ago for Democrats and helped them embellish the riot at the Capitol. And we learned that Democrats love Dick Cheney now. That says a lot. Then I started to ask, what is the real source of the contempt that the Cheneys and the Bushes have for Trump and his supporters? It can't be that they're still angry that Trump defeated Jeb in the 2020 primary.
Please clap.
But then I started to remember the South Carolina GOP debate that year. This was the moment that the GOP changed forever. It was actually during this debate that I decided to support Trump in that primary. And I think this is the reason for their contempt. 1 month before the 9/11 attacks on our nation, George Bush and Liz Cheney's father received a CIA warning titled "Bin Laden Determined to Strike in the U.S." The only reason we know anything about this warning is because it was leaked to the media by the CIA. Page 2 clearly says that FBI information indicated patterns of suspicious activity consistent with preparations for hijacking. Senator Bob Kerrey of Nebraska sat on the 9/11 Commission. This is how he describes this CIA warning.
Supported, even though, by the way, there's a credible case that the president's own negligence prior to 9/11, at least in part, contributed to the disaster in the first place.
How so?
Well, the 9/11 report says in Chapter 8, now it's beyond the campaign, so the promise I had to keep this out of the campaign is over. The 9/11 report in Chapter 8 says that in the summer of 2001, the government ignored repeated warnings by the CIA, ignored, and didn't do anything to harden our border security, didn't do anything to harden airport security, didn't do anything to engage local law enforcement, didn't do anything to round up INS and consular offices and say we have to shut this down, and didn't warn the American people. The famous presidential daily briefing on August 6th, we say in the report that the briefing officers believed that there was a considerable sense of urgency and it was current. So there's a case that could be made that wasn't made.
But what we've continued to hear from this administration is that the threat was much too diffuse. There was no way that you could zero in on the fact that al-Qaeda was going to use jets as bombs and ram them into buildings.
That is a straw man. The president says, if I'd only known that 19 Islamic men would come into the United States of America and on the morning of the 11th of September hijack 4 American aircraft, fly 2 into the World Trade Center, 1 in the Pentagon, and 1 into an unknown destination that crashed in Shanghai, so I would have moved heaven and earth. That's what he said. So, Mr. President, you don't need to know that. This is an Islamic jihadist movement that's been organized since the early 1990s, but declared war in the United States twice, in 96 and 98. You knew they were in the United States. You were warned by the CIA. You knew in July they were inside the United States. You were told again by briefing officers in August that it was a dire threat. And what did you do? Nothing, so far as we could see in the 9/11 Commission. Now, that's in the report.
Very few people read the 9/11 Commission report or watched this interview with Bob Kerrey, but millions of Americans were watching the South Carolina debate the night that Donald Trump said this.
On Monday, George W. Bush will campaign in South Carolina for his brother. As you said tonight, and you've often said, the Iraq War and your opposition to it was a sign of your good judgment. In 2008, in an interview with Wolf Blitzer talking about President George W. Bush's conduct of the war, you said you were surprised that Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi didn't try to impeach him. You said, quote, which personally I think would have been a wonderful thing, close quote. When you were asked what you meant by that, you said, for the war. For the war. He lied. He got us into the war with lies. Do you still believe President Bush should be should have been
First
impeached?
of all, I have to say, as a businessman, I get along with everybody. I get along with everybody, which is my obligation to my company, to myself, etc. Obviously, the war in Iraq was a big, fat mistake, all right? Now, you can take it any way you want, and it took Jeb Bush, if you remember at the beginning of his announcement, when he announced for president, it took him 5 days. He went back. It was a mistake. It wasn't a mistake. It took him 5 days before his people told him what to say, and he ultimately said it was a mistake. The war in Iraq, we spent $2 trillion, thousands of lives. We don't even have it. Iran is taking over Iraq with the second largest oil reserves in the world. Obviously, it was a mistake.
So
George Bush made a mistake. We can make mistakes, but that one was a beauty. We should have never been in Iraq. We have destabilized the Middle East.
But so you still think he should be impeached?
I think it's my turn, isn't it?
You do whatever you want. You call it whatever you want. I want to tell you, they lied.
Okay.
They said there were weapons of mass destruction. There were none, and they knew there were none. There were no weapons of mass destruction.
All right. Governor Bush. When a member on the stage's brother gets attacked, the brother gets to respond.
I get to do it 5 or 6 times or just
I'm being
once
nice.
responding to that? So here's the deal. I'm sick and tired of Barack Obama blaming my brother for all of the problems that he's had. And frankly, I could care less about the insults that Donald Trump gives to me. It's blood sport for him. He enjoys it, and I'm glad he's happy about it. But I am sick and tired of him going after my family. My dad is the greatest man alive in my mind. And while Donald Trump was building a reality TV show, my brother was building a security apparatus to keep us safe, and I'm proud of what he did. And he's had the gall to go after my mother.
The World Trade Center came down during your brother's reign.
Remember
that.
Hold on.
Let me finish this. He's had the gall to go after my mother.
That's not keeping
Look, I
us
won
safe.
the lottery when I was born 63 years ago and looked up and I saw my mom. My mom is the strongest woman I know.
She should
This
be
is
running.
not about my family or his family.
Okay.
This is about the South Carolina families that need someone to be a commander-in-chief.
I just want to say, at least on behalf of me and my family, I thank God all the time that it was George W. Bush in the White House on 9/11 and not Al Gore. I think you can look back in hindsight and say a couple things, but he kept us safe. And not only did he keep us safe, but no matter what you want to say about weapons of mass destruction, Saddam Hussein was in violation of UN resolutions, an open violation, and the world wouldn't do anything about it. And George W. Bush, enforced what the international community refused to do. And again, he kept us safe, and I am forever grateful to what he did for this country.
How did he keep us safe when the World Trade Center came down? I lost hundreds of friends. The World Trade Center came down during the reign of George Bush. He kept us safe. That's not safe. That is not safe, Marco.
All right.
That is not safe.
The World Trade Center came down because Bill Clinton didn't kill Osama bin Laden when he had the chance to kill him.
And George Bush had the chance. By the way, George Bush had the chance also, and he didn't listen to the advice of his CIA.